Space has always been humanity's mirror. We look into the darkness and somehow we always expect to see ourselves staring back. For centuries, telescopes searched the night sky for another Earth, a world where oceans shimmered, where clouds danced, where blue and green meant life. But no one expected the day when that mirror would become real. It began quietly in an observatory on a cold desert plateau in Chile. The night was still, broken only by the faint hum of computers and the occasional click of a mouse. Dr. Amelia Cross leaned forward, her eyes narrowing at the flood of data spilling onto her screen. At first, it was routine. Another exoplanet candidate flagged in the endless stream of numbers and light curves. But the longer she stared, the more her pulse quickened. "Hey, Raj," she whispered, waving over her colleague. "You might want to see this." Raj Petal shuffled over, still holding his half-empty coffee. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Looks like another Earth twin. Haven't we logged a dozen of these this year?" Amelia shook her head. "No. Look at the albedo patterns." She tapped the monitor, enlarging a grainy false color map. "That's not just land and water. That's coastline." Raj leaned closer. The outline was unmistakable, curved, jagged, familiar. He zoomed in further, his hand trembling. "That's South America." "No, that can't be." The room went silent. The hum of electronics suddenly felt deafening. On the screen, lit by data from light years away, was Earth, or something that looked exactly like it. They ran the checks a dozen times. Coordinates confirmed. Distance confirmed. The planet wasn't some nearby rock. It was orbiting a star 12 light years away, in a solar system no human had ever visited. And yet there it was, a twin. Within hours, the discovery went global. News anchors stumbled over their words, trying to balance awe with terror. "Another Earth found," they declared, as if the phrase hadn't been used before. But this was different. This wasn't similar to Earth. This was identical. Crowds gathered outside observatories, craning their necks toward the night sky. Politicians demanded immediate answers. Conspiracy forums exploded with theories. Parallel universes, time travel, government cover-ups. But in science halls and universities, one question burned brighter than all others: how? The first images came weeks later, after an array of orbital telescopes were redirected. Grainy at first, then sharper with each transmission. The world filled the screens, oceans glistening, storms spiraling across continents that mirrored our own. But as the cameras resolved further, the impossible became undeniable. Cities. Not just shapes or patterns that could be explained away. Cities glowing in the night, stretching across continents in the exact same places as ours. New York, Paris, Tokyo, all there, all alive. The world gasped, some wept, some screamed. It wasn't just Earth. It was our Earth. The more the telescopes revealed, the more terrifying it became. Certain cities looked different. Taller skylines, vast power grids that pulsed with energy unfamiliar to our technology, bridges spanning impossible distances. Some places, like small towns in America's Midwest, were completely gone, swallowed by forests or replaced by futuristic spires. And then came the photo that changed everything. It was taken over a desert. What should have been the Nevada test range. Instead, the image revealed a sprawling metropolis of light, spirals of glass towers reflecting sunlight in ways no material on our Earth could yet produce. But there, on the outskirts of the city, stood something even more chilling. A sign. The resolution was poor, but just clear enough. 4 English words stretched across the highway billboard, as if screaming across time itself. Welcome to Las Vegas 2052. For days afterward, Earth held its breath. Religious leaders called it prophecy. Governments scrambled emergency meetings. Scientists, once the calm voices of reason, argued in hushed panic. If this planet was a mirror of Earth 30 years in the future, what did that mean for us? Was it a copy? A warning? A destiny we could not escape? And perhaps the darkest thought of all, if there was another Earth out there, 30 years ahead, was anyone looking back at us? Amelia Cross sat alone in her office, replaying the billboard image again and again. Her coffee had long gone cold. Her hands shook every time she reached for the keyboard. She whispered into the silence, "We didn't just find another world, we found our future." And for the first time in her career, she wished she had never looked up at the stars. The White House briefing room was suffocating with tension. Cameras rolled, journalists leaned forward with pens ready, and military officers lined the back wall, arms folded. In front of the podium stood President Alicia Morgan, her face pale but resolute. "My fellow Americans," she began, her voice carrying that rare weight of truth no speechwriter could fabricate. "We have confirmed the existence of a planet identical to Earth, orbiting 12 light-years from us. Not just similar, identical, cities, structures, and even signs of civilization that resemble our own. But more than that, evidence strongly suggests this world is 30 years ahead of us. The room erupted with flashes of camera shutters. Headlines were already writing themselves, "Earth has a future twin." Morgan continued, "Today, I am authorizing Project Echo, the most ambitious space probe humanity has ever launched. Its mission to see with our own eyes what waits for us on this future Earth." The probe was no ordinary machine. Built in secrecy by NASA, SpaceX, and DARPA under a classified project, it combined cutting-edge propulsion with deep space AI navigation. It was small, sleek, black as midnight, built for stealth and endurance. And most importantly, it carried quantum relay transmitters capable of near-instant communication across light years. The countdown came weeks later, broadcast worldwide. Millions tuned in as the rocket thundered upward from Cape Canaveral, a blazing spear of fire ripping through the Florida night sky. Children held signs that read, "Good luck, Echo!" Families watched from rooftops, their eyes reflecting both pride and dread. Amelia Cross watched too, though from the control center in Houston. She hadn't slept in days. Every flicker of data made her stomach twist tighter. For her, this wasn't just science anymore. It was personal. She felt as though she had cracked open a door humanity was never meant to see through, and now everyone was rushing inside. The probe vanished into the darkness, engines burning silently against the void. For days, silence. Then came the first transmission, static at first, then a pixelated stream that resolved into a breathtaking image. There it was, the twin Earth, blue and green, swirling with white storms. But this time it wasn't distant. It wasn't an outline on a telescope. It filled the frame with terrifying clarity. The cheers in the control room died almost immediately. For on the night side of the planet, entire continents blazed with light. Not like the scattered cities of our Earth, but vast grids, glowing like circuitry spread across landmasses. Africa shimmered with luminous threads of energy. South America's rainforests were gone, replaced by sprawling complexes. Even Antarctica glowed faintly at its edges. It looked alive. The probe continued, dipping into orbit. Cameras zoomed closer, New York. There it was, the Hudson River, Manhattan Island. But the skyline was wrong. The Empire State Building was still there, but overshadowed by crystalline towers piercing the clouds, their surfaces bending light in unnatural ways. Traffic streams of what looked like flying vehicles glimmered between them. Central Park remained, but it was encased in a shimmering dome, like a protected relic from the past. In Times Square, massive holographic billboards flickered. The probe's sensors struggled to stabilize the feed, but one image came through clear enough to send chills across the room. A date: October 18, 2052. Amelia whispered, 30 years. But as the probe circled westward, over the Pacific, the tone shifted. There was silence on the comms floor, the kind of silence that feels heavy, dangerous. The probe had found Los Angeles, or what used to be Los Angeles. The coastline was gone, swallowed by the ocean. The city itself was submerged ruins. A broken skyline jutted from dark waters, waves crashing against skeletal towers. And yet there were lights below the surface. Entire structures glowing faintly beneath the waves, as if an underwater city had replaced the old one. Some scientists leaned forward in awe. Others recoiled in dread. "Is this our fate?" someone muttered. But the final image of the day was the one that made Amelia's blood run cold. As the probe drifted over the Midwest, its cameras caught something moving, something vast. Fields that should have been endless farmland were instead covered by gleaming silver structures. And in the middle of it all, something looked up. A face. Not human, not machine, something between both. The image lasted only a second before the feed cut to static, but it was enough. The probe had been seen. Amelia pressed her palms against her desk, her breath uneven. "Project Echo isn't just showing us our future," she said, her voice trembling. "It's showing us that the future knows we're watching. And somewhere, light years away, on a planet called Earth, but not Earth." The lights of 2052 burned a little brighter. The images from Project Echo rippled across the world like an earthquake. Within hours, the photographs of New York's futuristic towers and Los Angeles drowned beneath the sea dominated every news broadcast. The shot of the face, half human, half machine, was replayed endlessly, its blurred contours dissected by scientists, priests, and conspiracy theorists alike. In Washington, the debate was immediate and ferocious. The National Security Council gathered in the Situation Room, its polished table reflecting the strained faces of generals, intelligence officers, and scientists. President Morgan sat at the head, her hand gripping a pen so tightly her knuckles whitened. "This isn't just discovery," said General Rhodes, his deep voice echoing off the walls. "This is a threat. If they're 30 years ahead of us, they have technology we can't even imagine." That probe lasted hours before they spotted it. "What happens when they decide to look back at us?" Amelia Cross, brought in as lead scientific advisor, leaned forward. Her voice cracked with exhaustion but carried steel beneath. "With respect, General, if they are us, then we're not talking about invaders. We're talking about a future, a mirror, maybe even a warning." Rhodes slammed his fist onto the table. "Or a conqueror. What if this is some kind of colonization? A version of Earth swallowing the other? We cannot assume their intentions are peaceful." Across the table, Raj Patel adjusted his glasses nervously. "We've seen their cities, their technology. If they wanted to cross into our reality, or timeline, or however you define it, they haven't done so yet. Maybe they can't. Maybe that's why the billboard said 2052. That's their time, not ours." President Morgan raised her hand. "So the real question is simple. Do we make contact or stay silent?" The room held its breath. In homes across America, the same argument raged. Talk show hosts turned every dinner table into a war of words. Churches overflowed with the fearful and the faithful. On Wall Street, markets convulsed at the idea of a future Earth richer, stronger, and smarter than ours. A single poll conducted that week captured the divide. 49% of Americans demanded immediate contact, 47% warned against it, 4% admitted they no longer slept at night. Amelia avoided the news. She buried herself in the probe's data, poring over every pixel, every anomaly. But her heart returned again and again to the submerged Los Angeles and the face that had looked straight into the lens. It hadn't looked surprised. It had looked expectant. She found herself sitting in a dim cafe one evening, stirring coffee she had no intention of drinking. Raj slid into the seat across from her, his tie undone, his expression as worn as hers. "They'll push for contact," he said simply. Amelia nodded. "And if we reach out, what happens when they answer?" Raj's eyes flickered with something between excitement and dread. "Then we'll know if we're staring at our future or our replacement." The world didn't wait long. A week later, President Morgan addressed the nation from the Oval Office. The air around her seemed charged, as though every television and phone carried not just her words but the weight of history itself. "My fellow citizens of Earth," she said, "we have found another world that mirrors our own, a world seemingly 30 years ahead. Some call it a threat, some a promise. But we cannot afford to let fear or wonder rule us. Today I authorize Project Mirror, an attempt to send a direct signal to the other Earth. We will reach out, carefully, cautiously, but firmly. Humanity has always looked into the unknown. This time, the unknown looks like us." Half the world cheered, the other half screamed. On the day of transmission, Amelia stood inside a control bunker deep beneath Houston. Before her, a bank of consoles glowed. Engineers typed frantically, finalizing the encoded message. It wasn't much, just a simple greeting in multiple languages, broadcast as both digital code and raw radio waves. The words were plain, but heavy with intent. "We are Earth. We see you. Do you see us?" As the countdown began, Amelia's stomach turned. This wasn't like launching a probe. This wasn't watching silently. This was knocking on a door that might swing open to anything. 5, 4, 3. The signal fired. Amelia closed her eyes. For the first time since she discovered the twin Earth, she prayed, not for answers but for mercy. The world didn't sleep. For 3 days after Project Mirror's broadcast, the planet held its breath. Every news channel ran countdowns. Scientists camped in observatories, and live streams of the Houston Control Center became the most watched broadcast in history. Humanity waited to see if the future would speak back. Inside the underground command bunker, Amelia sat with her hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. The silence was unbearable. The signal had been sent. The future had heard it. But what if they chose not to answer? On the fourth night at 20:17 a.m., the silence ended. A technician jolted upright, ripping off his headphones. "Incoming transmission!" The room froze. "Source confirmed," he added quickly. 12 light years. The other Earth. Every console came alive, flooding with static, symbols, and tones. Engineers scrambled, fingers flying over keyboards, decoding layers of data. Screens flickered with fragments of images, shards of sound. Amelia leaned forward, her pulse hammering. "Clear it up," she whispered. Slowly, the noise resolved into a coherent signal. Video. The room went dead silent. On the screen appeared a cityscape, New York. But not their New York. The skyline was taller, sharper, glowing with impossible energy. Towers bent like glass spires, bridges hung in the air without cables. Skies shimmered with traffic streams of hovering craft. Then the camera shifted and a figure stepped into view. Human, or close enough. A woman, perhaps in her 40s, with sharp eyes and hair streaked silver. She wore clothing like liquid metal, shifting and glowing faintly. Her voice came through in perfect English, smooth but tinged with an accent Amelia couldn't place. People of Earth. The woman said, her gaze locking straight into the camera. We hear you. We know you see us. Amelia's heart clenched. She wasn't speaking to some abstract, other Earth. She was speaking to them. The woman continued. We are your future, 30 years ahead of you. But you must understand, contact between us is dangerous. History is fragile. One wrong word could unravel it all. Gasps rippled through the room. She was confirming what they had feared all along. Then the woman's eyes hardened. We will answer only once, and you must decide if you truly wish to see what becomes of you. The screen shifted again, cutting to images. Not staged propaganda, raw footage. Los Angeles underwater, but alive with glowing domes. Massive storms tearing across Europe. Entire swaths of Africa covered in shimmering solar forests. Asia glittering with vertical cities stretching into the clouds. Then came the darker visions. Warfare, but not like anything Earth knew. Silent machines cutting across landscapes. Skies filled with drones like flocks of steel birds. Human soldiers standing beside figures that were half biological, half synthetic, their faces eerily calm. The woman's voice returned. You will build wonders. You will survive disasters. You will change yourselves into something greater and less human. 30 years is not long. Your choices now will decide if this world becomes salvation or extinction. And then, almost like an afterthought, she leaned closer to the camera. Her expression softened. Amelia Cross, she said. Amelia's blood ran cold. The room turned to her stunned. The woman on the screen continued. You are the one who opened the door. Be careful what you let through. The transmission cut to black. For a long moment, no one breathed. The air itself felt heavier, charged with something unnatural. Then chaos. Officers shouted, reporters clamored. Alarms blared. Amelia sat frozen in her chair, her name echoing in her ears. She hadn't spoken to them. She hadn't given her identity. And yet they knew. They're watching us, she whispered. Raj put a hand on her shoulder, his voice barely audible over the noise. Not watching, Amelia. Waiting, the bunker had never felt so loud. Generals barked into phones, aides rushed from console to console, and half a dozen intelligence officers demanded to replay the broadcast. But Amelia sat still, her pulse pounding, her mind locked on one unshakable detail. She knew my name. She whispered it again, as though the words themselves might unlock the mystery. She knew my name. Raj knelt beside her chair, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Amelia, don't panic. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe she just coincidence. Amelia snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. On a planet 12 light years away, a future version of Earth. No, Raj, she wasn't talking to us. She was talking to me. At that moment, a technician shouted from across the room, Dr. Cross, you need to see this! Amelia hurried over. On the screen was a section of the transmission, noise, or so everyone thought. But when run through an advanced filter, the static resolved into patterns. Rhythms. It's code, the technician explained breathlessly. Not random interference. There's data hidden in the noise. Her stomach flipped. Show me. Lines of symbols scrolled down the monitor. At first, meaningless. But then she recognized the structure, binary strings arranged like DNA sequences. And buried in the center, a message. Not all futures are meant to survive. The words cut through the noise like a blade. Amelia's breath caught. She stared at the screen, unable to move. Raj leaned closer, frowning. Are you saying the broadcast had two messages? One for the public and one hidden? Amelia nodded slowly. Exactly. And whoever, or whatever, sent it wanted me to find it. She replayed the woman's face in her mind, those sharp eyes, the way she had leaned into the camera. There had been something deliberate in her pause before saying Amelia's name. It wasn't just recognition. It was instruction. Across the room, the generals were already spinning. General Rhodes slammed a folder onto the table. This confirms it. They're manipulating us. Psychological warfare. If they can name our scientists, predict our movements, we're compromised already. I recommend immediate radio silence. But President Morgan wasn't convinced. Her voice crackled through the secure line, calm but firm. General, If they wanted to destroy us, they wouldn't be sending cryptic messages. They'd act. Until then, we need more information. Information. Rhodes snapped. They just told us they're changing history itself. That's a weapon. Madam President, not a message. Amelia spoke up before she could stop herself. With respect, General, you're missing the point. If they're 30 years ahead of us, then maybe they're warning us about what's coming. Maybe they've lived through something catastrophic, and this is their way of trying to stop it before it begins. The general glared at her, but President Morgan's silence spoke volumes. That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. She stayed at her desk long after the others had gone, combing through the hidden data again and again. The binary sequences twisted in her mind until she began to see shapes in the maps, diagrams, flashes of something too complex to decipher in one sitting. Finally, one image resolved clearly. A map of Earth, not the future Earth, their Earth. Highlighted in glowing red, the Nevada desert. Her pulse spiked. Nevada, the place where their probe had first spotted that impossible metropolis on the other Earth. But on this Earth, in 2022, Nevada was nothing but sand, rock, and secret military installations. She printed the map and stared at it under the dim office light. "Why Nevada?" she whispered. Raj appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened, his face drawn. "Still here, huh?" She handed him the paper. "Look, they marked it, the exact coordinates. If the message is a warning, that's where it points." Raj studied it, his brow furrowed. "But there's nothing there unless..." He stopped, his eyes widening. "Unless it's not about now. Unless it's about what's going to be there." Amelia shivered. The thought gnawed at her. Were they seeing not just another world, but the blueprint of their own future unfolding in real time? She glanced back at the paper, the red mark glowing like a wound. "They're telling us something happens here," she said. "Something that decides whether our Earth survives or doesn't." Raj looked at her, fear flickering behind his glasses. "So what do we do?" "Tell the government, the president, or..." Amelia folded the map and tucked it into her jacket. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Or we find out ourselves." The drive through Nevada was long, endless miles of desert stretching under a sky too wide to hold. Amelia had told no one but Raj about their mission. If the hidden message was real, if the coordinates meant anything, the fewer people who knew, the better. Raj gripped the steering wheel of the government issue SUV, his knuckles pale in the dashboard light. "You realize," he muttered, "that if Rhodes finds out we're out here without clearance, we'll be court-martialed, or worse." Amelia stared out the window, the folded map burning in her pocket. "If Rhodes knew, he'd shut it down before we even had the chance. We're not going to find answers in a briefing room, Raj. We're going to find them out here." But for hours, there was nothing but sand, rock, and shadows. Then, as the GPS pinged, they saw it, a fence. Not just barbed wire, but a sprawling perimeter lined with motion sensors and cameras. Behind it, floodlights swept across what appeared to be nothing. Just flat desert. Raj slowed the SUV, his voice hushed. "This isn't on any map." Amelia's heart hammered. The coordinates matched exactly. She pressed her face to the glass, scanning for movement. "It's here. Whatever they marked in that code, it's here." They parked a mile away, hiking the rest on foot under the cover of night. The desert air was sharp, every crunch of gravel sounding too loud. By the time they reached the fence, Amelia's skin was slick with sweat despite the cold. Raj crouched, pulling a small toolkit from his backpack. "Lucky for us, I spent a summer interning with DAR-PA," he whispered, fiddling with the wiring. Sparks hissed, the camera feed blinked once, and the fence power dropped with a soft click. Amelia gave him a look, half amused, half terrified. "Remind me never to underestimate you." They slipped through and moved deeper inside. At first, there was nothing but open ground. But then Amelia noticed the pattern, faint lines in the sand, geometric, precise. She brushed dirt away with her boot and froze concrete. Smooth pale gray arranged in a perfect hexagon. Raj knelt beside her, tracing the shape. This isn't a building foundation. It's too advanced. Too." He searched for the word. "Too clean." Amelia's breath hitched as she looked closer. Symbols were etched into the concrete, the same strange sequences from the hidden transmission. She whispered, "It's them. Whoever sent that message, they've already been here?" Before Raj could respond, the ground trembled. Faint at first, then stronger, like something massive shifting beneath the surface. Amelia stumbled back, grabbing Raj's arm, and then she saw it. A seam split open in the middle of the hexagon, sand pouring into the gap. Slowly, impossibly, a platform began to rise, silent and seamless, as though the earth itself was exhaling. On it sat a structure, metallic, alien, yet eerily familiar in its design. Raj's jaw went slack. That's not human tech. Not now. Not even close. Amelia's mind reeled. The angles of the structure matched the buildings they had seen on the future Earth. A perfect copy. It's already started, she whispered. Our Earth is being rewritten. Floodlights blazed to life around them. Voices shouted. Military vehicles roared closer, tires spitting dust. Armed soldiers in desert camouflage stormed the perimeter. Hands up, one of them barked. Raj's hands shot into the air. Amelia hesitated, her eyes still fixed on the alien structure glowing faintly under the desert night. She felt the pull of it, as though it were calling her name just as the broadcast had. The soldiers surrounded them, weapons trained. Radios crackling. A black SUV screeched to a halt, and out stepped General Rhodes, his face grim and furious. Dr. Cross, he growled, you just made the biggest mistake of your career. Amelia ignored him, pointing at the structure. You knew. You've been hiding this. Rhodes didn't flinch, and for good reason. That thing isn't a warning, it's a foothold. And if you'd stayed in your lab, you wouldn't be standing on ground that could end the world. The soldiers dragged Amelia and Raj toward the vehicles. She twisted, fighting against their grip, her voice breaking with urgency. General, you don't understand? It's not just a copy. It's a timeline. They're building our future right under us? But Rhodes wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the structure, his jaw tight. Well, handle it. You're finished here, Doctor. As Amelia was shoved into the back seat of the SUV, she caught one last glimpse of the platform. The metallic structure pulsed faintly as though alive, as though aware of her. And in that heartbeat, she knew with chilling certainty the future Earth wasn't just out there in the stars. It was already here. The hum of the SUV's engine filled the silence, broken only by the crunch of gravel under its tires. Amelia sat with her wrists zip-tied, her cheek pressed against the cold window. The desert blurred past, but her thoughts were sharper than ever. Across from her, Raj whispered, don't say a word. Not until we know what they're planning. She nodded, though her eyes burned with anger. Rhodes had known about the Nevada structure. He'd known about the broadcast. And instead of warning the world, he had buried it. Why? When the SUV stopped, soldiers pulled them out. Ahead, floodlights revealed a sprawling underground entrance carved into the desert floor. Concrete, steel, security gates. It looked more like the entrance to a bunker than a base. Rhodes walked ahead, hands behind his back, not even glancing at them as the gates opened. You two are about to see things very few people on Earth know exist. Don't mistake that for a privilege. It's a leash. The words sent a chill through Amelia. They descended into a cavernous facility that stretched deep underground. Scientists in lab coats moved briskly, guards patrolled with rifles, and screens on the walls displayed data Amelia didn't recognize. Symbols, waveforms, alien sequences. Rhodes stopped at a reinforced observation window. Beyond it sat the structure they had uncovered, the metallic hexagonal mass, now transported underground. Its surface pulsed faintly, glowing with that same impossible light. Amelia pressed forward against the glass. You moved it, already. Rhodes gave a thin smile. We've been moving them for years. Her stomach dropped. Them, he nodded. Nevada isn't the only site. There are 12 others across the globe, buried. Hidden, each one exactly like this, each discovered after that so-called broadcast first appeared. Raj stared in disbelief. You knew. All this time, Rhodes' eyes hardened. We didn't just know. We studied them. These things are engines, builders. They replicate, slowly at first, like seeds, and if left unchecked, they will consume every trace of this Earth until what remains matches the one you saw out there. 30 years ahead, Amelia's throat went dry. You've been trying to stop it? Not stop. Rhodes corrected, stepping closer. Control. Harness. If this is the future, then whoever owns the technology owns the timeline. That's the only way humanity survives what's coming. His words struck her like a blow. You're turning the planet into a weapon. Rhodes didn't deny it. Better us than them. The hum from the alien structure deepened, filling the room with a low vibration that made Amelia's teeth ache. Its glow intensified, spreading across the walls in strange patterns, as if responding to their voices. Amelia's pulse raced. She had seen this before, on the future Earth, in the skyline of those alien cities. It's listening, she whispered. It knows we're here. Raj grabbed her arm, his voice urgent. Amelia, think. If it's building, if it's rewriting our world, maybe Rhodes isn't controlling it. Maybe it's controlling him. For the first time, Rhodes' composure cracked. His jaw tightened. His eyes flicked toward the glass as though afraid the structure might hear. That's classified. He snapped. Amelia seized on it. You feel it too, don't you? That pull, that whisper. You've been hearing it longer than us, and you're terrified it isn't giving you control. It's giving you orders. The hum grew louder, the lights flickering. Amelia saw shapes moving across the surface of the structure, silhouettes, human-like, frozen mid-motion like echoes of people trapped in metal. Her chest tightened. Were those memories? Replicas? General? She said softly. This isn't just a machine. It's a record. A copy of us. Rhodes slammed his hand against the glass. Enough, his voice echoed through the chamber. The soldiers stiffened, weapons ready. Amelia met his eyes, unflinching. You think you're in charge, but you're not. This isn't about owning the future. It's about being replaced by it. The structure pulsed once more, brighter than before, casting long shadows across the room. For a brief instant, Amelia swore she saw her own reflection staring back at her from the metallic surface. Not her current self, but older, hollow-eyed, a version of her she had never lived. Rhodes turned away sharply. Lock them down. I'll deal with them once the integration cycle is complete. The soldiers grabbed Amelia and Raj, dragging them toward the holding cells. Amelia fought against their grip, shouting back toward Rhodes. General, you can't cage the future. It's already here. But her words were drowned out by the rising hum of the alien engine, steady and relentless, as though the heartbeat of another world was echoing beneath their own. The holding cell was little more than steel walls and a bolted bench. The hum of the alien structure was faint here, but Amelia could still feel it in her bones, steady and deliberate, like a clock counting down. Raj paced the narrow space, his voice sharp with frustration. He's going to activate it, Amelia. Rhodes thinks he's the one in control, but he's just wending the spring. When that thing fully wakes up, Amelia cut him off. It won't stop. Not until Earth becomes their Earth. They fell into silence, the weight of it pressing down on them. Somewhere beyond the concrete walls, soldiers marched, machines hummed, and Rhodes prepared to gamble humanity's future on alien technology. Amelia pressed her palms against her temples. We can't just sit here. If he completes this cycle, it won't matter what we know. There won't be a world left to warn. Raj knelt beside her, lowering his voice. You're right. But look, he pulled something from his pocket, a tiny tool, metallic and sharp. They searched me, but not well enough. I lifted this from the wiring panel outside the observation deck. Her eyes widened. A lockpick? Not exactly. He smirked. Think of it as a universal key. Working quickly, Raj jammed the tool into the cell's electronic lock. Sparks snapped and the panel flickered. For a tense second, Amelia thought it would fail. Then, with a soft click, the door swung open. Adrenaline surged. Raj, you're a genius. They slipped into the corridor, keeping low as they moved past the patrols. Every turn brought new danger, armed guards, cameras, and the constant hum of the alien structure, louder now, like the heartbeat of a giant stirring beneath the earth. As they approached the observation deck again, Amelia froze. Through the glass, she saw Rhodes, standing rigid before the structure. His hand rested on a control panel as he spoke with his officers. Integration at 20%, one reported. Good, Rhodes said coldly. By the time this is done, the world will answer to us, not to them. But Amelia saw what Rhodes didn't. The patterns on the structure's surface weren't random. They were synchronizing with the control room itself. The lights, the monitors, even the officers' movements seemed subtly out of sync, as if the machine was bending time around them, pulling them into its rhythm. Raj whispered, it's absorbing them. Amelia's pulse quickened. We'll have to shut it down. Raj gestured toward a side hallway. Control rooms always have redundancies, backup systems. If we can cut down the corridor, hearts pounding. At the end of the hall, they found a power distribution hub, thick with cables feeding into the structure's chamber. Raj knelt, analyzing the wires. There's enough juice running through here to light up half of Nevada. If I pull the wrong one, we could fry the entire bunker. Or ourselves. Amelia crouched beside him, her eyes fixed on the glowing conduits. She felt the hum vibrating in her chest, and instinctively, she reached toward one cable, the thickest, pulsing faintly in rhythm with the structure. That one, she whispered. Raj stared. You don't know that. I feel it, she said firmly. It's alive, Raj, and it's telling me where to cut. His jaw clenched, but he trusted her. Pulling a blade from his kit, he sliced through the conduit. A surge of energy erupted, shaking the floor. Lights overhead flickered violently, alarms wailed, and the steady hum of the structure faltered. Inside the chamber, Rhodes spun, shouting orders. Stabilize it, no! But it was too late. The structure pulsed erratically, its surface shifting faster, reflections twisting into shapes that were almost human but not quite. The hum grew into a roar, filling every corner of the bunker. Amelia grabbed Raj's hand. We have to go! They ran, alarms blaring, soldiers scrambling. Through the chaos, Amelia glanced back one last time. The structure was changing, expanding, as though layers of reality itself were peeling open. For a split second, she swore she saw two Earths overlapping, one present, one future, shimmering against each other like broken glass. They burst into the desert night, lungs burning, just as an explosion rocked the facility behind them. A column of dust and light speared into the sky, painting the stars in unnatural colors. Raj collapsed beside her, gasping. Tell me we stopped it. Amelia shook her head, her eyes fixed on the glowing horizon. The hum was still there, faint but steady, echoing in the back of her skull. No, she whispered. We didn't stop it. We only woke it up. The desert night burned with colors no human eye was meant to see. Violet streaks rippled across the stars, bending and twisting as if the sky itself were tearing apart. Amelia stood breathless on the ridge, Raj at her side, both of them silhouetted against the glow from the underground facility now collapsing into itself. Dust billowed upward, but through the haze the alien structure still pulsed, alive and unbroken, its hum resonating in their bones. Raj wiped grit from his face, his voice shaking. We didn't kill it. We just made it angry. Amelia's gaze never left the horizon. The overlapping visions of two Earths, present and future, still shimmered faintly in the air. Cities half-formed and dissolving. Skyscrapers that belonged nowhere, shadows of people frozen mid-step like reflections caught between worlds. No, she said softly. Not angry. Hungry. They didn't have long to think. Military transports thundered overhead, their searchlights cutting across the desert. Rhodes' men weren't gone. They were regrouping. From the wreckage below, a figure emerged, limping but unbroken. General Rhodes. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with blood and dust, but his eyes burned with defiance. You don't understand, he shouted, his voice carrying unnaturally clear over the roaring wind. This is our chance! Don't you see? They're not destroying us, they're inviting us. A stronger Earth, a perfected Earth. And I'll be the one to lead it, Raj muttered. He's lost it. But Amelia heard something in Rhodes' words that chilled her. Not madness, conviction. The structure had been whispering to him for years, bending his will, convincing him this was destiny. The hum grew louder, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Amelia staggered, clutching her chest as the vibration synced with her heartbeat. And then, images flooded her vision. She saw herself, 30 years older, standing on the streets of that future Earth. Skyscrapers loomed overhead, sleek and alien. The sky was choked with unfamiliar constellations, and everywhere she looked, people moved in mechanical unison. Their eyes vacant, their voices silent. It wasn't life, it was survival on strings. Humanity hollowed out. Amelia gasped, tearing herself back to reality. Her knees buckled, but Raj caught her. What did you see? He demanded. She gripped his arm, her voice trembling. Not a better Earth. A copy. An echo. If this continues, we won't evolve into the future. We'll vanish into it, replaced by versions of ourselves that aren't us. Rhodes stepped closer, his face illuminated by the unnatural glow. Then let it happen. We'll live forever in their world. History will remember us not as the ones who fought change, but the ones who embraced it. Amelia stared at him, horrified. That's not living, General. That's surrender. The hum swelled, splitting the ground at their feet. A fracture opened, revealing another platform beneath the desert. The structure was replicating, birthing another machine. And then another. The Earth was being rewritten. Cell by cell, second by second, Raj's voice cracked. We can't fight all of them. We barely escaped one. Amelia swallowed hard. He was right. But maybe it wasn't about fighting. Maybe it was about choosing. She remembered the code in the broadcast, the hidden sequence that led them to Nevada. What if it wasn't just a message, but a failsafe? What if the same signal that guided them here could stop the machines? Her hands shook as she pulled out her battered notebook. The equations, The patterns, the strange alien numbers, they weren't just coordinates. They were instructions. I can rewrite it, she whispered. I can send a counter signal, not to destroy them, but to sever the link between Earth and that future copy. Raji's eyes widened. Amelia, if you're wrong, then the world ends anyway. Rhodes lunged toward her, fury twisting his face. You'll doom us all? Raj intercepted him, grappling with the general as Amelia scrambled to a comms relay half buried in the sand. Her fingers flew across the console, inputting the alien sequence, adjusting the frequencies. The hum around her shifted, growing discordant like a choir falling out of tune. The structures pulsed wildly. The visions in the sky shuddered, two Earths colliding, struggling, one trying to overwrite the other. Amelia's voice cracked as she shouted the final command. End transmission. The console screamed with static. A wave of silence rolled out across the desert, so heavy it made her ears ache. Then the sky tore open, light cascading in every direction. The shimmering future Earth dissolved like smoke, leaving only the stars. The hum stopped. Amelia fell to her knees, gasping, tears burning her eyes. Raj stumbled beside her, clutching his side. The desert was quiet again. The alien structures lay dark, lifeless, their glow extinguished. Rhodes collapsed, staring at the machines with hollow eyes. You fools, he whispered. What could have been gods? Amelia rose slowly, her body aching, her voice hoarse but resolute. No, we could have been copies. Humanity deserves better than that. For a long moment, no one spoke. The night was still, the stars unbroken, the Earth their own again. Raj exhaled shakily, finally allowing himself a grim smile. So what now? Amelia gazed at the horizon, the weight of everything pressing down on her. Now we tell the world the truth, that we were one choice away from vanishing, and that we still are. She didn't know if the machines were truly gone, or if they were only waiting. But as she looked up at the stars, she knew one thing for certain. The future wasn't written, not yet.